Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Benjamin Breaker Novotny, and I am back to bring you another cast that I took from the the subreddit known as Cast It, where you guys can upload your own replays and then have them casted by someone else. Now, it's worth noting that before we dive into this, I am actually only a gold kid on the Taiwan and Korea server. I used to be diamond, but I took a bit of a hiatus away from StarCraft. Enough about that. At the 12 o'clock position, spawning is our Red Terran. He is Pneumothorax, and that's quite the interesting name, I might just add. And at the 6 o'clock position of Vaani Research Station, spawning as our Blue Protoss, he's going to be Barcode. I wouldn't be surprised to find out that this was actually played on the Taiwan and Korea server, as the trend is most commonly found that players will go for a Barcode on the Taiwan and Korea server. It looks like I did not load into the Taiwan and Korea server to cast a replay like I had initially anticipated I would, but enough about that. Here we go, guys. Time to get back into the cast. So why did I take a bit of a hiatus away from StarCraft? Long story short, a part of it was the environment. A part of it was the people that were inside the environment. If you want to talk about tiers of casters, there's 3 different tiers. There's tier 1, that's basically anyone can load up a replay and anyone can cast it. There's tier 2, where you've got guys who have Twitch partnership from casting replays because their passion, or not casting replays, but even just casting tournaments, because their passion shows in their work. And then you've got tier 3 casters. Tier 2 casters, I just want to add this in, might go to 1 or 2 offline events as a featured caster based on convenience or their specialized knowledge of players in that region, or whatever else have you. For whatever reason it's convenient to have them at the event. Then tier 3 is people like Day 9, Artosis. The people who really matter the most, and they are paid thousands of US dollars to cast a weekend of tournaments, just to voice their commentary. Todd, Total Biscuit, these guys. You know, I mean, a lot of you guys are probably going to shoot me down for Total Biscuit, but he's amazing. The problem is, I've been a tier 2 caster that I felt like wasn't picked up enough for the longest time. But enough about blog mode. We've got a game on our hands. It's going to be a Reaper opener coming from our Red Terran, Pneumothorax, at the 12 o'clock position. Most likely, I would say it's just going to be a Reaper opener for the time being. Whether or not it's a command center follow-up is entirely up to him. And TVP is not my specialty match of choice. We do have the Cybernetics core coming from our Barcode in quite the timely fashion. Not going to try and play this out in any way, shape, or form as something cheesy, based on the extremely long rush distance between his opponent's main and his own main. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I was also reading in the title of this replay that this Protoss player is a map hacker, a COT map hacker. Yes, a Phoenix Colossus map hacker. Uh-oh. Spoiler alert, I guess. Well, we're going to find out just how this goes. Alright, so at the natural, of course, we do have the SCV just... Oh, man, this is what happens when you don't guard your natural. I'm kidding. This is quite the standard build order for a Protoss to take versus a Terran. But now it looks like it will be shut down in a timely manner, so there's no real interruption to the economy coming here for our Protoss. The Mothership Core also comes out in a rather timely fashion as well. The Reaper's doing whatever it can to just be annoying. It doesn't bother diving into the natural because, of course, it's already known that the natural is there simply based on the time that the SCV was killed. The second barracks will be coming down from Pneumothorax, as well as a third. I like this move because I know he saw his opponent going for what looked plain as day an expo. Just straight up, like that. Nothing cheesy. But at the same time, it's a good idea to keep your opponent honest. And I can't name the number of times I've seen Terrans go for a command center first, and then they get killed by oracles that are not necessarily looking to kill SCVs, but rather killing Marines, keeping the anti-air count low, and then getting their ground army supply up, using stalkers and zealots without speed, without blink, to just bust their opponent. And of course, with this many barracks coming down, it goes without saying we don't even need to see the tech lab. It's going to be a bio follow-up because, well, hell, even using mech versus a Terran, excuse me, using mech versus a Protoss player is not all that viable. Now, one thing that hasn't been entirely picked up on here, rather, excuse me. Ooh, man, that Reaper is still alive. Is the Stargate. Complete. I really feel like we have to see Pneumothorax become wary of this, but I also think that maybe he's thinking to himself, okay, so why was this pylon placed here? And it's one of those things that makes sense if he's scouting it. Or looking to scout for it. I don't know, this bio timing though, I feel like, okay, an Oracle coming in here. That's 8 Marines and a single Marauder moving out at this moment, I might add. At home, what do we have from our Terran, or excuse me, our Protoss rather? We have just a couple of Stalkers and the Zealot. We've got the Mothership Core as well. I do think that versus what we have coming from our Terran, there's no stim, so he should be able to defend this, I think, without any of that. Okay, so he's going to come in here, he's going to see the natural, it is finished. But what he's not seeing is the threat that's coming at him at this very moment, the Oracle. But there are some Marines in place to defend against it. A single Oracle can handle 6 Marines. Reapers go up against it. Marines kind of go up that ramp just a little bit, just to poke, and they saw, okay, well, we can't handle this head on. Now, this Oracle is not dead weight, just because it was kind of, I guess you could say, somewhat preemptively shut down. Just based on the Marine positioning and such. But it can be used for things like, just, how do I say this, revelation in the future. Figuring out where your opponent is, keeping tabs on them with not only revelation, but, what's the word I'm looking for? There's also envision. Because you never know when a Terran might be using Banshees, right? I don't think, I'm pretty sure we're not going to see that happen now, especially with these extremely early 3 barracks, but we are now approaching that moment in the game where macro has been thoroughly established. And that's the beautiful thing I'm looking forward to the most with Legacy of the Void. We're not going to have, you know, 5-10 minutes of fluff time, because we're going to have 12 worker starts for all 3 races. So bye-bye blog mode. We're gonna dive straight into the action from now on. Single Marauder with all these Marines targeting down these gateway units. You know, that really was not a favorable trade for our Terran. At this point, the Robo is done. Phoenixes are now coming out into the game. And our barcode is continuing to just get his numbers up, but I feel like trying to out-macro a Terran is something that's impossible to do as a Protoss. After all, Terran does have mules. There is no third base indicated to be taken just yet by Pneumothorax, but as I say that, he's moving out, and SCV is in position at what could be argued as the natural, but in this case, it's going to be the third. And the third of our Protoss is in a whole lot of trouble. There's no AoE here to defend just yet. There's not even a single Immortal out. There's a single Observer that's going to just tag along with this army, and that's it. It's a little bit strange once you stop and think about it. Why is there no Observer going through our Terran's main at this moment? I mean, all things considered, it's only viable to go bio versus a Protoss player. Scan on top of the army will reveal, of course, everything and the Observer. That's quite a few Phoenixes. Does our Terran pursue an engagement at this point? This is a very old style, I guess you could say. Jim and Max said are renowned for, how do I say this, revamping and refining this play style, although it has existed since the Wings of Liberty beta is my understanding. That's something that I heard. It was extremely common to do this. In fact, it was common to do Phoenix DT in the beta, but here we go, that big engagement. Nexus cannon going off. The Zealots don't have charge. The Marine splits here are looking absolutely sick. The Phoenix is doing work on the medevacs though, but the bio on the ground is just too much. And it looks like they should be able to clean this up with relatively little trouble. Now we've got more and more Zealots whipping in on the ground, and the rest of this force will be cleaned up. However, this isn't an excuse for our barcode to push back at this moment. He still has to worry about... Oh, wait. These 2 medevacs. I don't know about that. Well, this isn't an excuse for our Protoss to just push back quite yet. Lots of missile turrets going down. I like this. Something to do versus an opponent that is throwing lots of Phoenixes at you. One time I remember a very interesting Phoenix Colossus game versus Maru. And I'm not talking... Jim versus Maru, trying to think here. Gigabart's Stars War of 2013 was actually a pretty amazing game. It was only an online tournament, but there's another game that happened versus Maru in SPL, and this was back when Terran was at its weakest in, I believe, 2013, if not 2014. We saw 8 Protoss tournament wins in a row, and the only exception of that was Snoot at Home Story Cup. I forget which one. Oh my god. Enough about that. This is... Oh man. Well, I mean, not everything was lost here. But I mean, that was 2 medevacs that Pneumothorax is not getting back, and he did not have vision of that. He's got no observers, and now the Phoenixes are coming in, picking up the bio one at a time, and... Sorry about that misclick. Sorry about that. But it's just, it's a little sad to see this. Just a little bit. He's losing a little bit of army here and there, but this is the problem with map hackers. Who knows? Maybe we'll see a complete turnaround coming from Pneumothorax. I think he's played this out really well so far. It's just that the only problem is he really can't, effectively speaking, drop his opponent. He's map hacking. I mean, there's no getting around that. It's plain as day right now. So what happens at this point is the real question to be asked. Okay, so that one Marine gets picked up on. Looking for a valid excuse to pick him up and kill him, I guess. But what I remember most remarkably about that game between Maru and his opponent in SPL was he was camped outside. He was parked outside of his opponent's third on Frost LE, which just shows how old this game was. And he sets up a couple of planetary fortresses and a ton of missile turrets, so his opponent just can't move out in the most efficient manner, not without taking a whole ton of damage from static. It was amazing to just see that kind of play from this kid. Now the third is up and running from both sides. We're gonna have an early-ish fourth coming from Pneumothorax. I imagine it's gonna be a planetary fortress supplemented with these 3 orbital commands that are already there. Look at this. 9 Phoenixes. The numbers continue to grow, by the way. Alright. What does our Terran do in this position? We're about to find out. Okay, I like this. He's going to try and get a pick off on the 4th. And meanwhile, his own 4th is going to finish up in the background. I love the positioning of these Widow Mines. And it looks like we're just going to have a complete, outright abandonment of that base by our barcode. It's difficult to take a 4th base on this map as Protoss. That's one thing I've just immediately begun to notice, because it's very wide open. But now, if we see a head-on engagement here, I have a feeling this isn't going to end well for our Protoss. He's going for the Widow Mines one at a time, and now beautiful connections are coming left and right. The western portion of those Marines were just absolutely decimated. Now we've got the Marines and Marauders on the ground just absolutely getting slaughtered, and it looks like Pneumothorax, despite his losses, he stands even with his opponent in the way of army supply. His production infrastructure is getting bigger and better and badder and online-er, all in the making. Look at this big misplay, though. The Phoenix is going to dive straight down on those medevacs, and a whole bunch of them just fell from some Marine pepper fire on the ground. +3 is just moments away from finishing up. Beautiful spreads on this bio, picking up both Phoenixes, but more importantly, Colossus. There's only 3 left in this entire army. And that's one of the biggest flaws of map hackers. They don't have the micro to compete with Masters League players. There we go. At this point, I do want to think that maybe we're going to see our Terran simply outplay his opponent by keeping his economy online. And now to make up for his deficit, we do have our barcode Protoss going for his 4th base at the gold. There's 2 observers out on the map, one with the army. Now the Nexus goes down in the 4th position. It's gonna get dropped, but I mean, what's this going to do with that many Phoenixes out on the map? I think we'll find out soon enough, but... Oh, well, wait a minute, that is pretty sick. That, again, this is the mistake that I'm talking about that map hackers make. That was a simple micro mistake that he could have gone without making. 2 Marauders there, just working away at this like heroes. And now he's just, yeah. He's like, hey man, put me back down, I'm not done with that probe. That one Marauder, that hero Marauder. But now +3/+3 is done for our Terran. Just about, actually, excuse me, +3 infantry weapons are done now. And +3 attack, well, we've only got +3 attack on the way for our Protoss. That's going to, you know, make the Colossus just quintessentially stronger, unbelievably stronger. But what is that when you don't have the armor to supplement it? Believe it or not, increasing your armor is going to increase your DPS, your army's overall DPS output, simply based on the fact that your units are going to stay alive longer. This is something that our barcode has completely neglected, but here comes the big engagement. Beautiful spread. Very few Vikings with this army. Most of them are going toe-to-toe with the Phoenixes, and now there's nothing but storms going down on this army all over again. This charge lots just going straight through all this like there's no bio on the ground, being supported by the Colossi in the sky. The Vikings now trying their hardest to take them down. It's just not enough in the end, but there's more and more bio coming in to reinforce this. Missile turrets will reinforce as well. Scans coming down for our turn. Motion sensor tower. Yes, motion sensor tower was taken down. Now we've got +1 armor on the way for our Protoss at long last. So what's one way our Terran can make his army stronger at this point? Simple. Throw in some ghosts. And that's exactly what he's going to be doing very soon. Got 2 queued up already. I would love to see some nukes. I'm a huge fan of nukes. Like, what's... Honestly, what does a maphacker do versus an opponent that's going to nuke him? Like, does it really reveal the location where a nuclear warhead is going to fall? Well, this isn't looking good. That gold base looks like it's in quite the snipeable position. Although it is a planetary, I'd say that that's more than enough tanky units to take it down. But I don't see why our Protoss is reluctant to take an engagement there. Perhaps it's because there's no Phoenixes at this moment, at least not at his peculiar location. Perhaps I'm looking at this from the wrong perspective, and he's too lazy to go ahead and clear out this Widow Mine and take this as his 5th base. His opponent's already got a 5th. It's getting turned into a planetary fortress. You can't just fight like this as Protoss, but I think he's getting overzealous simply based on the merit that he's at 200-200. But the one thing that he's lacking as opposed to his opponent is the upgrades to match him. +3 armor just finished. Like, these are just... I don't want to sound like I'm a harsh critic of some kid who's playing in Masters League just based on the merit that he could potentially be map hacking. But at the same time, come on, if you're going to turtle up and play Protoss, just turtle up and play Protoss the right way. Now we've got a ton of ghosts coming into the mix with this army, and they are loaded with the MPs. Guess what's here? Nothing but Archons at the front lines. And there they are, the ghosts separated out. Beautiful EMPs connecting with just about everything, although not disintegrating every single shield that's out there. Some of these Archons still full HP, if you will. And now we've got the stand being made. The Planetary Fortress is going to be playing the tank in this big fight, if you will. Now we've got nothing but Colossus and Phoenixes going toe-to-toe with this army, but we've still got a Terran that's going to have his gold even after this base falls. SCV is being pulled again, and no more reinforcements coming in from the right. This is the critical tipping point. The Colossus are trying to focus down the Marauders and the Marines, but there's simply too many, and now reinforcing zealots are coming in. The charge lots. Oh my god. I wanted to say that if we still saw the Colossus alive at the end of that fight, things would have been okay. But look at this game right now as it is. There's no winning this for our Protoss unless he can hold this 5th base. Nothing but more and more Archons on the way. Defensive PF there. This is one of the most annoying styles of Terran to play against. It really is. Because when you're trying to go in, you're trying to harass, whatever. Whenever you're trying to strike at the heart of your opponent, which is their production, when you're camping production, you've won. But if you can't get to that, you're in a very difficult, a very hard to win spot as a Protoss or even a Zerg player. There we go. Archons coming in here. There's no EMPs to accompany this. There we go. Stem, the Marines, the Marauders getting lower and lower, but so too are the gateway units. That motion sensor tower is just slated to burn. And now, with no Phoenixes in the sky, we've got a Terran that's free to do whatever he wants with his drop play. There it is. Base is secured. Base is secured. But there's no medevacs to accompany this army coming from our Terran. Right now, Pneumothorax, that's his only Achilles heel at this point. Just as I say that, he does start making medevacs. But it kind of scares me to know that all of these Marines and Marauders are depending on what is effectively speaking the American healthcare system. Kappa. Big stim. Only a handful of units actually get that stim though. If the gold is picked off, I'd say that's going to be a huge blow to the economy. Massive. Picking off this assimilator, I don't know about that, but well, where did those phoenixes come from? Well, at this point, the lower right-hand corner base, the gold is going to be sniped. There's no move to contest that. And I feel like that's a very irresponsible move coming from our Protoss right now. He's going to lose probes there as well. They are moving to long-distance mine to the 5th base, if you will. The scan's going down somewhere just to see if there's a Protoss army nearby, and that's it. The main was, of course, lifted up and landed at what was the 4th base's location, and now we've got a Terran that's in his position to win. Alright. This is nothing but a bunch of zealots. And one Colossus. But there's also a nuke that's finished, I might add. Yes, there is, isn't there? Units, nuke. There we go. I'm gonna hotkey this so that... There we go. If need be, we can watch a nuke launch from the silo. This is gonna be amazing if it works. I love seeing nukes. I really do. Like, the endgame nukes are the craziest stuff. I love watching Beastie Cutie play because he loves playing with his nukes. But, guy's kind of borderline retired. He announced he was retiring, switching to League of Legends, but meh. Enough about that. Our Terran obviously has the upper hand here. Yes, his opponent does have an economic lead, if you will. But I have a feeling that it won't last for long if this base falls. I like the move that these Marauders are making, and now our Protoss, our Lazy Toss rather, finally cleans that up. 2 Marauders did a lot of economic damage. The scans are now revealing the main army, and there it is! Just missed it a little bit. Just missed it a little bit, but this is creating a position that our Protoss cannot engage directly into, and likewise our Terran cannot either. The nuke was cancelled. It's being rebuilt. I like this move. He's playing checkers and chess, if you will. You move here, I move there. Slightly turn-based, I guess you would say, but yeah. The only big problem is there's no more nukes to accompany that one that just went off. Its cloaking is now being researched instead. I don't know about this move, though. He could probably lift off this orbital command and potentially save it. But it looks like he's not going to do that. That was the one that came from the natural. But here comes the big engagement. EMP is going down everywhere. And now there's just too much bio here and not enough AoE. Yes, the Archons have some, but it's not enough. And they were EMP'd on top of that. Now all that remains is just a bunch of Immortals and a handful of morphing Archons, Stalkers, and everything else in between. Our barcode is now done for the push. The retaliation is coming now from Pneumothorax. There it is. Oh my god, all these High Templar are here, but they don't even have enough energy for Storm. Look at this. He throws everything that he's got at this. It just isn't enough. He throws out... He doesn't even throw out a GG. He just leaves the game. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Benjamin Breaker Novotny. Thank you all for watching. To Pneumothorax SC2. I know I haven't had the greatest reputation in the community for StarCraft 2, but please do leave me some casting feedback. I'm aiming to improve. I'm aiming for bigger and better things this year, and I'm hoping that you enjoyed this cast. Tell me what I can work on. I want to be better. Thank you.